Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at Dynasty Dad FF, joined as always by my main man at FF Snoog. Make sure you guys go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below because today we're going to be talking about our running back tiers. You know, the OTAs are over, the draft is over. We are now in a spot where we're looking at what are these running backs going to do? I'm going to start it off right off the bat here with our S tier, Snoog. And our S tier is our smash tier. These are the guys that honestly are elite foundational running backs that you could build your team around that are going to be around for the next 5-6 years as RB1s. Kick us off with your RB1, my RB1. Should be everybody's RB1, but it isn't.
Yeah, my RB1 is Jahmyr Gibbs. He's the RB1 overall last year. He was RB2 in points per game, but Saquon Barkley decided to sit out, so my guy Jahmyr Gibbs got the spotlight to finish as the RB1 overall. He is as elite as it comes. He's the face of the Detroit Lions run game. He is a guy that can catch 100-plus receptions if they just let him catch the ball out of the backfield more. He has that 50-plus floor, but he's elite as a rusher, 1,400-plus rushing yards. Like, he has shown that he can be that elite-level rusher and receiver, both out of the backfield. So he's that dual threat, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara type running back. And if you just look at what he did last year in the playoffs without David Montgomery, he was absolutely elite as the main face, as the workhorse running back. He was averaging like 28 points per game, ridiculous amount of touches through the backfield in the red zone. Like, he is just a do-it-all workhorse. Same with the next two guys that we're going to talk about, but he has the edge because he's on the best offense out of any of these guys.
Yeah, the next guy for me, and this is the part where you start splitting hairs. A lot of people, is my Dynasty RB1, my redraft RB1 is Gibbs, and my Dynasty RB2 and redraft RB2 is Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson has been absolutely phenomenal through his first two seasons. Someone that, you know, I believe there's value in these two players that shouldn't be traded. I see it a lot in Dynasty, and these two guys are guys that you can build around. That's the reason that in 2023 we were trying to do rebuild processes to get these guys. Bijan Robinson is a league winner. Now you get Michael Penix added to the equation. He's been someone that, you know, over 60 receptions last year, over 250 touches, and I don't think we've seen his ceiling yet. You know, like him and Jahmyr Gibbs are the most elite assets when you come to that running back position. Bijan Robinson is a set it and forget it RB1 for the next 5 years. I want him wherever I can get him. He's a bit of a value right now in startups where he's fallen into that, you know, 202, 203 range in some areas. And I think he's going to have a huge return on value for what he's going to put up in 2024 or 2025 compared to 2024. The next guy, you know, we were talking about our 101 in 2023. And when a guy is a 101 in a rookie draft and he's a running back, he just doesn't miss. And neither will Ashton Jeanty in 2025.
There's been 7 running backs drafted in the top 10 since 2015. Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, and Ashton Jeanty. Every single one of those running backs as a rookie had 14-plus points per game. Half of them had over 17 and a half. 2 of them had over 20-plus. Jeanty is going to be closer to that 20-plus points per game in this Raiders offense with Chip Kelly, with Pete Carroll, who are known for getting that run established. He's the clear face with Brock Bowers of this offense. He can catch 60, 70, 80 passes all day long in this offense. He's a 350-plus touch rookie running back all day long. And if you just look at first-round running back hit rates, it's like through the roof for having an RB1 season. Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, some other guys in the past that have had, you know, that top Jahmyr Gibbs, that top RB1 type season at least once in their career. So I'm confident Ashton Jeanty joins these guys, you know, as that he went 6th overall in the NFL draft. He has that generational type draft capital, and he's a guy that can do it all out of the backfield, catch 50, 60, 70 passes and score 10-plus touchdowns, which you do want, either 10-plus touchdowns or 50-plus passes to have that top 5 ceiling, and he's got both of it.
Yeah, this next guy unfortunately falls into our A tier. This is elite level production. He's 28 years old, but if he was still 25, he would clearly be up here in this range. And that's Saquon Barkley. You know, up over 2,000 yards this past season, 7.7 explosive run rate, was 3rd in the NFL. He had touchdown runs of 65, 39, 72, 23, 68, 62, 78. I mean, he was a home run waiting to happen in this Eagles offense, finally unleashed in an offense that gives him all the flexibility that he needed, you know, when he was with the Giants. If we start to see some touchdowns go up, I mean, Snoog, 11 times tackled at the 1 yard line. A majority of those were poached by Jalen Hurts. If we even see a fraction of that, we're seeing some crazy upside. Saquon Barkley is a guy that we just did our sells show. So he is someone in Dynasty as an overall sell. However, you cannot rank him any lower than 4 because of where he's at. Even at 28 years old, he increased in value. He's a set it and forget it RB1. He's a league winner. Despite those 400 touches, he's someone that you're going to, you might not want to build around him like you do Bijan, Genti, and Gibbs, but you do want him to fill in the puzzle and win you your leagues, just like this next guy who's considerably younger, but it's just kind of been a tale of two players when you look at what Devon Achane could do with Tua and without Tua.
If you look at his career so far in 2 seasons, just 28 total games, he has 23 total touchdowns, 100 plus receptions, over 1,500 rushing yards. He finishes the RB5 overall last year, and Tua wasn't even playing for half of he missed so many games where Achane was just an absolute stinker. But when Tua was there, he was literally averaging 20 plus points per game. And if you look at his fantasy points per touch since he entered the league, he's 1 ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs by 0.1 for the 2 highest fantasy points per touch from the running back position with Achane and Jahmyr Gibbs. So he has, I think, up there with the highest upside of anybody in this tier, like in terms of just scoring touchdowns and catching passes. That's what you're looking for. And in this offense with Mike McDaniels and Tua Tagovailoa, that's going to be the center face of this offense, is scoring touchdowns and catching passes.
That difference between him is 0.94 points per touch, almost a fantasy point per touch for Achane and Gibbs since they've been in the league, which is unbelievable. The splits that we were referencing to with Tua Tagovailoa, 22.8 fantasy points per game. That's RB1 overall. Without Tua, 8.7. That is outside the top 24. And that's crazy to me. It's like a player of that talent, you take away you give him a semi-capable QB2. Now they have Zach Wilson, Quinn Ewers. I think would be a little bit of a step up. The next guy for me and value-wise, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, is you talk about the 102 in your rookie draft versus where we're at with Achane and Barkley. And I want Omarion Hampton here. Omarion Hampton has a 3-down workhorse type upside. He's someone that, if we're playing the long game here and you can be patient with whatever kind of split they're going to get with Najee Harris, this is someone that the Chargers and Roman-led offense is always going to be a heavily run-favored offense. They were top 11 every single year when it comes to, overall touches. He has, 1,200 yards, 10-plus touchdown upsides as a rookie, and I think he has even more, upside going forward. So I cannot pass up on Omarion Hampton as my Dynasty RB6. And we knew the strength of this 2025 class was running backs with Snoog. You got Genti at 3 overall, Omarion Hampton at 6, and their next guy here at 7. I mean, we're talking 3 out of the top 7 Dynasty running backs are now rookies, and this class is loaded. If you went and you invested in this class, you're thrilled because you got some absolute ballers.
Yes, I love that you hit on Omarion Hampton, because I think any of these rookies that we're about to talk about have the chance to be like RB4, RB5 next year, going into next year with big years. But Hampton, another first-round running back, those hit rates are through the roof in that offense. It's just a picture-perfect situation. Another situation that I'm in love with, more so just for the talent and what that offense needs, is Travion Henderson with the Patriots, in need of a desperate home run hitter, in need of a playmaker, in need of an elite caliber running back to ease Drake May's stress off his shoulders, stretch the field, open things up. Travion Henderson is that, Achane, Kamara, dual threat type running back who's an elite receiver. He just screams fantasy points, and he got 38th overall draft capital on a team that was in need of offensive line, in need of wide receivers, in need of a lot of things at the time. And they still took their chance. They got their cornerstone left tackle and Will Campbell and paired up Travion Henderson, who Josh McDaniels probably is going to see, I can use this guy like James White in. He can be a 15 to 20 plus guy on the ground. He's going to be our superstar running back, and they went ahead and snagged him. So Mike Vrabel, and Josh McDaniels, both are run-heavy type coaches, especially Mike Vrabel. So you're going to see a lot of Travion Henderson popping 50, 60, 70-yard touchdowns.
The next guy here is RB8, everyone's darling from last year. Bucky Irving, in only starting 3 games in 2024 and still went up over 1,000 yards. If you look at the 5 games where he had over 10 rushing yards, Snoog, 20.8 fantasy points per game, 128 yards per game, and almost, at 0.8 touchdowns per game. If you take that out, and you stretch that and you say, you know what, this is what would happen if he got, and it was only 5 games he had more than 10 rushing attempts. That's crazy. That's crazy. But if you took those stats of just those 5 games and stretched them out over 17 games, you'd be looking at 353 fantasy points, 2,000 yards, 14 touchdowns. He's someone that ranks inside the top 5 in yards per touch, in juke rate, in catch rate. I mean, he has a ton of upside. And when we talk about tiers, before you go on to the last guy in our tier, this is something that I think is very important. Player rankings are one thing. Tiers are what matter. We have those 3 guys at the top. You could rank them however you want. This A tier, though, I think is honestly, some people might have A chain at 4. Sometimes all of these guys, if you can get a second on top of Bucky Irving to get from Travion Henderson, from Marion Hampton, you do that because there's a lot of value to be had in this tier. And we believe at Smash Accept, it's tiers over rankings. Rankings are subjective. Tiers give you value windows.
I love that you said that because I think the 6 players that we're just talking about in this elite production tier, I think if you sat a different person in front of me and had me sell them on each and every one of these players, I could sell them on why they're the RB4 in Dynasty. Confidential, like easily could sell them on it. And finishing off the tier here, number 9, I'm not losing faith in Breece Hall. The Jets have been an absolute crapshoot, and when he's been able to play fully healthy 17, 16 games, he's been RB2 and RB16. Last year was a little bit of a downgrade, playing through a hamstring injury. Rodgers, there was just a ton of stuff going on there. But in those 2 games, or in those 2 seasons, he's been able to hit 57 plus receptions, and he had 76 receptions in the year before that on 95 targets. So he's an elite receiver out of the backfield. He's been efficient since he's come into the league. 4.19 plus yards per carry in each of his first 3 seasons. He hit 5.79 as a rookie. He hit 4.46 last year. The offensive line is the best it's been for the Jets now. They bring in Detroit defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, coming from a run-heavy style offense. He's going to pound the rock with Breece Hall. They have a Justin Fields type of run-heavy offense quarterback. I think this is going to be the year Breece Hall finally gives us what we want. You know why? Contract year running backs hit ridiculously hard. If you look back at like David Montgomery and Miles Sanders' contract years and Tony Pollard, they all finished as top 10 running backs. It just happens. Like, it's a thing. They need that contract. It's time to ball out. They put it all together. They show why they're worth it. Breece Hall has, top 5 talent in this league. I think he has the home run upside, the touchdown upside, and the receiving upside to be a top 5 finisher very easily. He's already done it. He's already been a top 2 finisher. And I do think that the Jets are in a better place than they've ever been. And I think they're going to put it all together this year. Maybe not be a 10-win team. I think they'll get 7-8 wins. And I think Breece Hall will be a big reason why they're winning games.
And that was the end of our A tier. And I think the gap between S tier and A tier is considerably larger than the gap between A tier and B tier. We're going to talk about B tier here, and I think there's a couple of guys that really could join that list sooner than later. The guy for me at the 10 spot here is Jonathan Taylor. You look at what he's done since he's been in the league. RB10, RB2, RB18, RB12, and last year RB7. That's on a points per game basis. But he's only played 1 full season. That season he finishes RB2. In some league formats, it was RB1 overall. In that year, in the playoffs, he was a league winner, 25.8 fantasy points per game. This is that time. Is it make or break for Jonathan Taylor? I think you can see the scenario where if Anthony Richardson goes and starts at quarterback, you could see him be a lot more run heavy, get a lot more touchdowns in the red zone. You see him with Daniel Jones being the quarterback. You could see him getting a lot more involved. And in 2021, he had, I believe 40 plus receptions. He has that floor to be a Derrick Henry type, double-digit touchdowns, 1,500 yards, and he could get that floor reception like we're talking about where Derrick Henry gets 30 to 50 pass receptions per year. And I think that's really what adds it to Jonathan Taylor. He's one of the better values in Dynasty when you talk about a per-game basis, but the best availability in Dynasty is, the best ability is availability, and he's missed multiple games. That's the only reason he's not in that A tier.
Yeah, the next guy here, I'm actually a little bit higher on. He's actually in the tier above for me. It's Quinshad Judkins, and I think people are starting to come around on kind of the type of talent and what he's been doing in OTAs and rookie minicamp and the buzz that's been around his name, especially in the NFL draft, that he's actually good at football. And I know a lot of like the fantasy analysts and people out there were trying to just dive into his metrics and his analytics and saying he stinks, but no, he doesn't stink. Everything needs context. If you're using analytics without context, you're wasting your time. Just throw it out the window. This is a guy that was the 36th overall pick in the NFL draft, drafted by an organization in need of answers, have absolutely nothing on their team. Go out there and draft a running back with their second pick in the draft, 36th overall pick. Run heavy offensive scheme with Kevin Stefanski, who's been an RB guru with Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt throughout his years since back in Minnesota in 2018 as the OC. 3 years with 1,000+ rushing yards in 2 different offensive schemes, 10+, 15+ touchdowns in all 3 of those seasons as well. He was only one of 2 running backs to have 1,000+ rushing yards as a true freshman. In college football in general and in this class, Nick Singleton was actually the 3rd one, but he went back to school. So him and TreVeyon Henderson, the only ones with 1,200+ rushing yards as true freshmen. And he's going outside the top 20 running backs in regular redraft fantasy football right now. And he's in that like 10 to 12 range in Dynasty. I think he's the best value at the running back position in all of Dynasty right now, because I think he has the upside Hampton, Henderson, Bucky, Breeze, Saquon, all those guys have for the next 2 to 3 years, but he's priced significantly lower.
The last guy in this tier, and is someone that when I buy my running backs, I want them in elite offense and I want them getting elite usage. This is someone that in 2024 had just that. From weeks 9 through 17, when Chase Brown took over in Cincinnati, 7 of those 8 weeks, he finished inside the top 13 running backs. He averaged 5.6 targets per game and a crazy 20.6 fantasy points per game, making him the RB4 over that time. What did they do to bring in anybody? They got in Taj Brooks. Zach Moss is the other guy in town. They go ahead and they bring back absolutely nothing. So I think he is going to dominate touches. I think his touchdowns could go up. His rushing upside, I believe he goes over 1,000 yards this year. And I think Chase Brown is one of those guys that, in Dynasty, we keep saying, oh, well, maybe next year they'll bring somebody in. Maybe next year they'll bring somebody in. And maybe they don't. But for right now, he is a top 10 running back for me in redraft. And if that's the case at 25 years old, he sure as heck better be in this tier for you when it comes to Dynasty running backs as well. So now we move to our C tier. Again, gap between S and A, very large. Gap between A and B, not that much. And gap between B and C, I could see a lot of these guys based on what you're looking for on your Dynasty team. They easily could fit the mold, but these guys are starting to, we call them your upside backs, your upside production, guys that have done it in the past or, are getting a little bit older in that 25 to, I believe this is 25 to 28 range, aside from the rookies that we're going to throw in here. So, Snoog, who's the first guy in C tier here who you're interested in?
Yeah, it's Kenneth Walker, RB12 in points per game last year, 16.5 points per game. He averaged 4.6 receptions per game last year, up there with the top 3 players in the NFL. He had 8 touchdowns in 11 games, too. If he played a full 17 last year, Kenneth Walker finishes as a top 5 running back. And I know, that's the big if, because it's been like that for him his entire NFL career. Can Kenneth Walker play a full 17 games? Because he hasn't even played a full 16 games. He hasn't even played a full 15 games in his NFL career yet. But every time that dude steps on the football field, he makes you say, this kid has elite talent. He's a stud. He's a true home run hitter. He has that reception upside. He's dynamic in space. He can score a ton of touchdowns. He's only ever been a touchdown scoring machine since been in the NFL. He averages 10 touchdowns a year in 14 games. So it's I think this is the year. I like Breece Hall. Like I said, contract year. Seattle's offensive line got a little bit better. Their offense got a little bit better. They added some more weapons there. I think this is the year that they got a new coach. I think this is the year that Kenneth Walker, with Clint Kubiak, who is known to be a run-heavy style offensive guy that gets the play action going, a lot of screens we saw with Alvin Kamara last year. I think this is going to be the year that Kenneth Walker gets it and puts it all together and has a huge breakout season.
The big if is health there, and that's the thing. The guy that put it together last year, I have above Walker, but I think he's definitely in this tier, is James Cook. James Cook, 18 total touchdowns last year after, his first 2 years only scoring 2 touchdowns each. He was that guy who, the only downfall and the reason we have in our actual Dynasty Sales episode, make sure you guys go check that out. The reason we had him in there was because they refuse to give him more than the 220 touches. We're talking about contract situations now. A lot of these next couple running backs, we're going to talk about contracts, and that matters. But I think James Cook in the Buffalo Bills offense is still a top 12 to 15 dynasty wide receiver, just not someone that I believe in for the long term. But dang, he was good in 2024. So was this next guy for you from Green Bay.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs. I'll make it nice and simple and easy. I know he's 27 years old, elite offensive line, great scoring offense, true workhorse running back. Just since 2022, when fully healthy, playing a full 17 games, he's had over 1,600 rushing yards and 1,300 rushing yards in both of those seasons, double-digit touchdowns in both of those seasons, and 57 and 37 plus receptions. He's hitting that, 35 to 50 reception range, giving you that high floor as a receiver. He's scoring 10 plus touchdowns in every single season he's playing in when he's healthy. Even dating back to close to like his sophomore rookie season, he's basically hit 9, 12, 12, 15. He had 6 in 2023, but he only played in 12 games. So it's like he has the rushing floor, the receiving upside, the elite offense, and the good offensive line. There's nothing more you could ask for. So, and he's 27. He's still a younger player for how long he's been in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, next guy for me is similar type mold. I think in your startups, you're seeing Josh Jacobs and Kyren Williams go right around the same area. And I think Kyren Williams is one of just 5 running backs last year, or over the last 2 years, in 2023 and 2024, to have 30 plus receptions here, 1,000 plus rushing yards and 10 plus touchdowns. The other ones, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Devon Achane, Joe Mixon. We got to stop fading him and start putting some respect on his name. As much as last year we wanted it to be Corum, and this year I think Jarquez Hunter is going to eat into that workload a little bit. Kyren Williams, since becoming the starter for the Rams, averages 1.1 fantasy rushing touchdowns per game. No one else is even close to that. No one's over 1. That's insane. The fact that he has played 28 games as a starter and has 31 touchdowns. I understand that, a lot of people say that the efficiency dropped from 2023 to 2024, and it did. And there were a lot of factors to that. There was the offensive line is involved in there. There's a lot of other things. Cooper Kupp was down. Now they got Devontae Adams. They got, a healthy Puka Nacua, a healthy Matthew Stafford. It could be back to another 15 touchdown season. As much as I like Jarquez Hunter, he's not a touchdown guy. He's an electric in space kind of guy. And I think he's going to, have another RB1 season here. Depending on the contract is what it really is going to boil down to for Kyren Williams.
Yeah, my next guy here, and it's crazy we're talking about him this low, but it's Christian McCaffrey. When he plays, he's the best running back on the field in terms of fantasy points. Like always, he's always the best running back in fantasy points when he's playing a full healthy season. If you just look at when he first came to San Fran, RB2 and RB1 finishes with 350 plus fantasy points, ridiculous amount of receptions and touchdowns. So he's been elite in this offense, in this situation with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. He's healthy, he's back, he's ready to go. He literally can hit 80 plus receptions and 1,000 plus rushing yards with ease. And if he plays a full 17 games this year, Dad, I think it's comfortable to say that he's going to finish as the top 3 running back. Like, that's just, there's a big if, but that's just the truth. Like, that's the type of player, that's the type of skill set he has, and he's in an elite offense that scores a ton of points. So I do think, even though he's 29 years old and there are risks and there's a big if factor, at RB17, I can win my league with this player. So I'm willing to take a little bit of a risk on, RB17 and startups to take Christian McCaffrey, who has literally scored 20 plus fantasy points in every single healthy season he's ever played in besides his rookie season. So I think the upside's there for sure with him.
He's got 3 of the top 5 fantasy finishes of all time, including that 470 point fantasy season he had there. And what's crazy is I was starting to look at how many games Saquon Barkley had over 100 yards last year, and it was 5. But then I looked, and LaDainian Tomlinson, who finished as the second best running back season ever, Snoog, he had 100 yards rushing in, get this, 16 out of the 17 games, or 15 out of the 16, because they only had 16.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's insane. So and Saquon and Christian McCaffrey beat him this past year, or in 2020, was it 2022? Anyways, not the important part. The next guy on our list, and now we start to talk about the 2 running backs here, is that add to this rookie class is RJ Harvey.
Yeah.
I am using the J.K. Dobbins signing to get RJ Harvey cheaper. Like, J.K. Dobbins was really good last year, But if you look at his contract, just like Najee Harris, he signed backup money. It's 2.5 in guarantees plus some incentives to get him up to 5. And he's been, injury plagued. So I think RJ Harvey now is getting a little bit more value or a little bit less value. You're getting him at better spot here. But look at what he did. 54 runs of 10 plus yards last year. That was second only to Genti. 32 runs of 15 plus, second only to Genti. And I think you look at that offensive line, Snoog, that Broncos offensive line had a 74.9% run block rate last year, number 1 in the NFL. That was their grade. They were phenomenal. They just had Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime. Now It's just down to these two guys, and I think RJ Harvey is a good value here. I have no problem anybody taking this next guy instead, though. I mean, Caleb Johnson now with Aaron Rodgers really is all systems go.
Yeah, Caleb Johnson, I'm super excited for him now with Aaron Rodgers, of course, but 33rd round draft pick, 83rd overall pick in an elite running back class where you can make the case for so many damn running backs to be taken at that pick. Specifically, the Steelers and Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith saw a true workhorse running back, and this guy posted over 1,700 plus total yards this past season at Iowa. Literally was their whole offense. He was facing 7, 8-man boxes, 9-man boxes. Like, he faced the most stacked boxes in college football this past season. Not only is Caleb Johnson a 6'1", 226-pound running back, but he fits that zone run scheme that Arthur Smith and the Steelers are trying to run that he ran at Iowa. So it's not only a perfect scheme fit, but Mike Tomlin, every single day 2 running back or better that he's drafted in his time as a coach has had literally a top 20 finish or like a strong RB2 or RB1 finish. So it's like almost a guaranteed hit that if he gets the volume and he's somewhat decent, he can be an RB2 or better. So I just think at 21, 22 years old, as a rookie in this offense, he has so much room to gain value because everybody always talks about the Steelers' workhorse running backs like James Conner, Rashad Mendenhall, Le'Veon Bell, Najee Harris. Add Caleb Johnson to that mix because he's coming to play in an offense where he fits his scheme and his strengths as a zone runner.
Yeah, Najee had 250 plus touches every single year as a starter. Next guy that always gets 250 touches, someone that is another age anomaly. He's turned 31 years old, but Snoog, you can't keep Derrick Henry off this list. Another guy that I had on my cells, but when you're talking about overall dynasty, King Henry is the king of touchdowns. Since 2020, he has 70 total touchdowns. 10 or more in every single year. 4 of the last 5 years, he's had 14 plus touchdowns, and he had 16 with the Ravens last year. 1,921 yards, 5.9 yards per carry, 19.8 fantasy points per game. Derrick Henry is a certified stud. The only reason we don't have him higher is and the fact that if you went in a time machine and you 3 years ago, you were talking about Derrick Henry being towards the end of his career. Now you're like, dude, this guy could play forever. It's the LeBron James of the running back position, takes such good care of his body. He is fine on my team as an RB2, not going to be long in the league, but these next 2 years, they're going to run it till the wheels fall off, and that's the end of our C tier. Then we get into our D tier, and this is your veteran production, your guys that are no longer worth a first. Derrick Henry's the last guy to me in Dynasty that's still worth a first round pick. But these are really good values from 21 to 25. These are good guys. I want to hit on them quickly, but I really want to just concentrate on the value versus cost on all of these guys.
Yeah, the best value in all of Dynasty Fantasy Football every single year is Alvin Kamara. He'd actually be slightly above in the tier right behind Derrick Henry for me, but it's pretty much the same thing for me. Alvin Kamara every single year since entering the league, RB4, RB4, RB8, RB1, RB4, RB13, RB3, RB5 in fantasy points per game. And yeah, you heard that right. RB3 and RB5 the past 2 seasons in fantasy points per game. He's not Devon A-Chain. He doesn't need his starting quarterback to be there. He's the best player on the football field every single damn time he steps on it at the running back position on that team. He carries that Saints offense, whether it's Spencer Rattler, Andy Dalton, Derek Carr, it doesn't matter because everybody wrote him off when Drew Brees retired, and he's been RB4, RB13, RB3, and RB5 since then. So he's literally as QB-proof and situation-proof as it gets.
We'll see what he does with Tyler Shuck and have some fun with it. The next guy here, and I mean, you can't go wrong with Alvin Kamara. For me, Chuba Hubbard is the next guy on this list. Right now, he is someone that this Panthers offense has improved. They've improved at the offensive line. They've got Tet McMillan. We have, Canales' offense has led Bryce Young to another level in his career. And now he had 250 carries last year, almost 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns. Snoog, 43 receptions. This is just consistency personified. I mean, he finished as an RB1 in 8 out of his 15 games last year. Very few guys, especially at this point in your, value-wise that you can get for less than a first, are finishing half their games as RB1 or they're older. Chuba's just 26 years old, and now they bring in Rico Dowdle. I think Dowdle's a solid number 2, but the Jonathan Brooks rumor is no longer there over his head. It's his backfield for all of 2024 and 2025. I think Chuba Hubbard is a good value in Dynasty and has real solid production. Next guy here, another staple. Once these 2017 running backs leave the league, we're going to cry because
I'm going to be depressed.
2020,
that's my generation.
2025 is the new 2017. It's like when your kids, grow up and move out of the house. But 2017, this last guy here from that group.
Yeah, it's Joe Mixon for me. And I know I love the Texans, and I was a big Joe Mixon guy last year. He had 12 touchdowns, 1,000 yards, and he was RB9 with 17 points per game in only 13 games. He basically played 2 of those games injured too. So a fully healthy Joe Mixon was as elite as they come. He was a top 5 running back at the time when he was fully healthy. And his injury wasn't really his fault. Someone fell on his ankle and he roasted his ankle. Like, there's nothing you could really do there. But just dating back to his rookie season in 2017, RB9, RB11, RB7, RB5, RB6, RB19, RB9, RB28 in fantasy points per game. He's another one. This 2017 class gave us a ton of studs. He's in the best offense he's ever played in terms of just entire opportunity, with no Giovanni Bernard there to steal receptions. Like, he's the guy in the Texans offense. I know they brought in Nick Chubb. If Nick Chubb is back to Nick Chubb's self, then things are going to be a little mushy in there, and it's going to be kind of, Joe Mixon needs to cut some passes. But if Chubb is just injured and pretty much done for a good amount, or just a complimentary guy, Mixon should still be a workhorse running back. Even if he doesn't give you what he did last year, he can still give you, 900 to 1,000 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns. It'd be a big payoff at RB 23 to 28, wherever he's going in drafts.
This next guy, Dynasty RB24, redraft RB27, has never finished outside RB21. Make it make sense. DeAndre Swift. I need my Swifties to unite here because this is the year where DeAndre Swift could crack that top 12. Upgraded offensive line. That Chicago Bears offensive line is loaded now. I mean, they put some horses up in there. Ben Johnson now leads the offense, and his offense always features running backs that catch passes. DeAndre Swift, coming out of college, was one of the best, if not the best, running back with pass catching skills coming out of that class. Still has never really hit the stride that we see he has there. Avoids any serious competition at all from the Bears. You mentioned that Nick Chubb signing. I was like, okay, well, if Nick Chubb or J.K. Dobbins go to the Bears, that kind of kicks DeAndre Swift. Swift now is in a backfield of, Kyle Monagai, Roshan Johnson. Like, it's his, man. Like, he could be a league winner, and you're getting him for the 203, 204. I think DeAndre Swift has tons of upside. And, this list would not be a Snoog certified list unless we added this last guy in here. He was begging. He's like, Dad, let's get this guy on here, because after this, it becomes a lot of nonsense. It becomes a lot of guys where they're either way long in the tooth, like James Conner, or we're betting on upside with, Bashal Tutins, or, guys that just aren't there. Snoog, who's 25 for you?
Cam Scatterbo. That's the RB1 for the New York Giants in 2025. So this is a guy that was basically a 3rd-round pick. He was like one of the first picks in the 4th round. True workhorse upside. Posted over 2,000 total yards last year for this Arizona State offense. He literally carried this offense with one of the toughest schedules you could have in college football. Against Texas, against any of these teams, he showed up, he dominated, forced over 100+ missed tackles, 20+ total touchdowns last year. The best thing about it is there was 3 running backs to be drafted with 1,700+ rushing yards and 500+ receiving yards. Christian McCaffrey, Ashton Genty, Cam Scatterbo. The metrics, the analytics, and the tape. I'm big on, like, if analytics, production, and tape all align, like, that's usually when I go all in on players. He's one of those guys for me where I love the tape, and then just looking through the metrics and the analytics and the production and the context behind his situation. it was great. And I think he could be like a James Conner, a David Montgomery type of running back in the NFL and be like a low end RB1, high end RB2 for a good amount of time.
I like that David Montgomery comp. Guys, down below, check it out. That's our Patreon link, $5 a month. Get you in there. You pay through the Patreon. We'll send you the link to the Discord. So that's just basically your shell to get in. All my content, Snoog's content, Dynasty, redraft, everything you need. We have all of our rankings in there, our start sits. The community is absolutely growing at a rapid pace. So make sure you guys get in there. Money back guarantee through that first month. Snoog, we've had 0 people call us out on it because they have loved being in there. They have loved the process. So thank you guys for tuning in and enjoy the process.